Well, we're 4 episodes into my Minecraft Forever World series, the Doink Diaries, and I'm feeling better than ever about it. The world is really feeling alive, and I'm ready to start turning our little outposts and camps into fully formed villages and towns. One of the coolest parts about a building game is, well, the building. I never really considered myself a good builder, and I still don't necessarily, but for the first time, I'm at least starting to take some sort of pride in the things I create. Whether it's a triple spider XP farm that acts as an abandoned mine shaft in an old west town, or an iron farm and trading hall that look like some sort of medieval smithy, or even a mud farm that looks like some sort of big weird mud farm. On this forever world, I've been trying to plan a little bit bigger, and I don't mean by planning a big castle in the middle of nowhere. I mean planning a reason why that castle would exist. And I always like to start a new area with the most simple thing, which is a house. Because much like real life, houses are a pretty good testament to the lifeblood and soul of an area because they're filled with, well, us. Now, since this is just a starter house, you're probably not going to have access to 30 or 40 different blocks day one when you're trying to build your house. So I've narrowed it down to 4 different blocks, 2 stacks each. So as you can see, I have some pretty accessible blocks early game: cobblestone, stone, spruce, and mangrove. And we're going to make a whole house with just 8 stacks of blocks. Okay, so let's start off the doink method of building with D. Do build smaller, but bigger. What? Basically, I see a lot of people building things that are way too small for them to comfortably live in or navigate. Also, the smaller the build, the harder it is to detail. So, with that in mind, let's move on to O, which is okay. Now build foundation, frame, walls, then roof. So I dug a 5 by 11 foundation here. And when I say foundation, I don't mean the total area that the build is going to be within. What I mean is the actual walkable, usable footprint within the house. Going back to the D in the Doink method, which is do build smaller but bigger. Now let's grab our foundation materials and let's just grab everything. And this is going to be a basement, and I want stone in the basement, so this looks nice to me. So the next thing we have to do is frame it. And when I say frame it, I usually try and go like floor by floor, or room by room, and just frame it all in before I put any walls up or anything, and just see what we're looking at before I get too far ahead of myself. So let's start by framing this in. The way I like to do it is I go to the corners and I build one off here, and I build one off here. I like to think of all my walls as at least 2 blocks thick. That way you have some depth for detailing on the outside and inside, and it just doesn't feel so cramped. Operating under the assumption that your walls are all 2 blocks thick will greatly help you do build bigger, smaller. Now that we've made a little bit of progress, let's go on to I. Inspect angles and sides, adjust accordingly. So let's do a little walk around here. I'm liking what I see so far. Now let's hop back to making some walls. So let's go up here. This is going to be the basement. So let's just start planning it out. So we're going to make a bottom wall here. Go some walls here. This is going to be my furnace area, I think. So that could be a little bit thicker. Basically, I'm just trying to make every wall kind of the same, but also different. Basically, I want each area to have synergy, but not all be the same kind of style. So now let's add some of the actual wall blocks. So let's do one of these. And I'm going to make sort of a window here. This isn't what I wanted. Yeah, something like this. Let's throw, maybe on the corners, we throw in the sort of darker stone like that. Perfect. And then I like putting these fence posts here as windows sometimes. And you know what? Let's do it here too. Okay, let's make some more windows over here. And I think we'll do that. That looks good. A lot of these little quirky window and wall trick things that I use just really come down to trial and error. Boom. I'm liking this so far. Okay. So I kind of just went ahead and started on the second layer just to, you don't have to go step by step with me. You can kind of see what I did. But as you can see, I put some upside down staircases in the wall to differentiate different levels, and I actually made this side of the house one block higher just to make it a little more interesting from the outside instead of having a line go all the way across. And I love these little circle doors. So when you put the trap doors in, they just look so clean. A clean little circle. Just walk right in the house. I'll do another one here. You can see I raised this level up one. This is going to be the basement. We're going to have a ladder to the basement. This is going to be all our storage and maybe a furnace set up here. And you can see already that just with the first and second story done, it does look really good already. To look at this side, every side is a little bit different, but it's also the same. And I am actually going to raise this one. I'm going to raise this one up. A big part of building too is just knowing when to change what you built or take it down. Some people just keep stuff that they don't like because they don't want to do the work to take it down and just rebuild it, but it's worth it. Yeah, that looks better. So now let's do the windows and walls up in this first area. Shelves are a game changer. So I like to sometimes do these kind of little arches. And they're a little tricky to make look right, but they're pretty cool. So this can be a little window here. So let's just start with the ceiling in this room to make sure we can. I like to start with the ceiling just to make sure I have plenty of room in here. And this isn't going to be a big room. This is just going to be sort of a little watch overlook. So let's start with. We'll do a 2 high ceiling in here. Let's do this. Get up here, and it'll start with stairs. Let's try that. I'm making this part of the roof sort of a flat, gradual kind of barn roof with just slabs and stairs. I don't want to take away from the massive, like, pointed roof of the tower that we're going to build next. Okay, so this is kind of what the roof is looking like right now. Let's see if the stairs work. Nope, the stairs will not work. So let's take this one out. We'll take these 3 out. Just go from there. Stairs, stairs, stairs. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that roof. So keep in mind we're just in the framing step, and as far as framework goes, I am pretty happy with this so far. There's plenty of room to move around, and we have some recurring motifs, some architectural motifs. Those are words I can say. And basically what that is recurring architecture. So you have very circular windows, circular doors, circular passageways into the next room. And basically what these recurring sort of architectural themes do is bring a sense of purpose and intentionality to your build. You look at it and you go, wow, he's doing circles. You don't even think about it, but everything's sort of circular or semicircular, including the roof. The roof is semicircular. The doorways are semicircular. Our actual main roof, that's going to be a big spiral like that, is very circular. It just sort of ties everything together. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's make our entrance to our basement, which will be ladder on the back of shelves, I think. So let's do one of these. And some ladders. Go right on up. Close up the trapdoor. Go right on down. And you can even store stuff. So let's move on to the next floor here. And what I like to do with the next floor sometimes is like stagger our main supports. So the main support was there. Now our main support's going to be 1 block over and 1 block in on this side. So it's just kind of kitty corner from that. And I'm going to use a different color block just to change it up a little bit. So we'll go 3 high, and we'll do that on every corner. And this is going to accomplish a few goals. One, it's going to narrow the second floor, and it's also going to turn the build from a square into more of a circle, which will help the square base of this build transition into a spiral tower. So now I'm going to start outlining this roof. I want to make it circular now, so we have to do a circular motion. So let's use our stairs we have, and we'll just make the rounds. Whoops, not that way. Not that way either. How do I do this? And right here, I want to do a little arch, make the window. So we're going to do something really simple, which is just a quick slab, just a slab arch. And we're going to do one of these, put this there. See that? Perfect. Okay, let's just get the floor in here so we can walk around and start building this roof. Now, I don't always use slabs for floors or ceilings, but since this is a bit of a smaller build and we have limited material, slabs work great. And let's go ahead and build this floor too. So as we come up to this little overlook and we go up to the second floor here, I don't want to fill this room with stairs again, and I really like the sort of shelf ladder. So we're gonna do one of these here. And for the top rung, so it doesn't look goofy, we'll do a little staircase there. And then go ahead and put your ladders on. There we are. Now we're in the sort of loft area. And let's start out by framing the loft area. And we want to make this circle even smaller. You can see it's starting to gradually get smaller. We want to make it even smaller. And by doing that, you make the roof look much bigger by making the room underneath it smaller. So I'm going to show you how I like to do my roofs, and you can either follow along, but it's really important to kind of just play with it. You can see just the trapdoors are your best friends on the roof because they offer just very small raises in elevation, and something like a cone roof or a spiral roof, spire, it needs little tiny details like that. And I always like to put the prominent raised height in the center. As you can see, I have 2 logs in the center of each side of the roof because the center of it is what's going to be pulling this roof up. And I also like to vary colors on the roof to give it a little bit more definition. And as you can see, I'm putting staircases to differentiate between the red part of the roof and the brown part of the roof. But basically, we're just trying to create the illusion of a spire or a cone sort of going up to a point. And staggering these logs in a symmetrical, uniform pattern is what's going to help create that illusion. And once you get to the top for this spire, I'm using logs, but a lot of people might use stone blocks or a non-flammable block and put a lightning rod on top so their house doesn't burn down. But I like to live dangerously. And you can see I am putting some staircases on these logs too to further exaggerate the slope. And you can see that I started to take out the corners of this and continue that spruce stripe all the way up to the top. So just don't be afraid to rework your builds if you see a better solution. Now let's move on to N, which is now terraform in detail. So I inspected my angles and my build, and I'm pretty happy with what I've got here. And I would have chosen some different colors, obviously, if I was detailing with some more blocks, but since we're just using 4 different blocks, this is kind of what I ended up with. You can see I kind of came around and put some lights on with some stone walls jutting out of the wall. I used the infamous moss block to generate some terrain around the area and finished out the windows. I put some railings in there, some fence rails. I love fence posts for finishing builds, and I think it really does look pretty good as far as a starter house goes. Is this my most technical build I've ever done? Absolutely not. But is it a build you can easily do on day 1 after getting 8 stacks of material? For sure. You can build this day one of your server and it's going to look great. You can see there's all sorts of different variations in elevation, in textures, in depth of walls. It makes it feel way more dynamic, way less blocky, which is ironic because it is a block game. But you can really spend some time experimenting with certain styles, and this is an experiment for me, and it turned out great. I think it looks really excellent. So I did a very quick detail job, nothing crazy. I'll let you finish up the details, just giving you some examples, just a little bit of reference. So you got plenty of storage all around this base. You can put way more in than I have. Here's a little cook station for your food, little kitchen, some more storage here. Nice view of the surrounding area. Go up to the next floor. We got a brewing station. You could put whatever you want here, more storage or anything. And got the bedroom up here. Some light. You can just get a good view of the whole area. And I like to leave the top floor just open a little bit so I can just hop out when I want to go if I don't want to go all the way down the stairs. Which brings us to our basement, which we'll have our furnace room down here. Some more storage, crafting, stone cutter, and even some more storage. And you can fill this up with quite a bit of storage. I didn't want to spend the resources on it for just this example. Now I know I'm not the best builder in the world, but this is a pretty decent little house that I'm happy with, using only 8 stacks of 4 different types of blocks. One of the most fun parts of building is just experimenting, and honestly, that's how I really felt like I started to improve the most. Experiment with designs and little quirks with walls and posts and details, and don't be afraid to tear stuff down that you don't think looks good, but I'm pretty happy with what we've got right here. Anyway, that's really all I've got for this week. I just wanted to do a little bit of a walkthrough of how I like to design builds and freeform builds. I almost never use tutorials anymore, and it's been really a good time just experimenting with stuff. I've made some pretty cool builds. I've got the spider farm here, the abandoned mine, made the little saloon here. My girlfriend has been making these wonderful stables, which are super awesome. Hasn't quite finished detailing yet, but it looks great so far. We can keep all our horses in here. We're just having a blast on this server. Everybody's out here building. So if you like what you saw this episode and enjoy watching this content, please like and subscribe and comment on the video. Show me pics of what you've built too. I love seeing other people's builds. And just Minecraft's awesome. So I love you. Bye.